How are you guys doing? Today is Monday, March 21st, 2022, the first day of spring. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances that took place yesterday on Sunday, March 20th. And of course, I'm going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. Before I do so, I'm going to take a quick step back and take a look at where we are in the calendar year. With football being over and baseball around the corner, we are in the midst of March Madness. In the men's bracket, there are now 16 teams left competing for the 2022 title. Now that the first and second rounds are over, the Sweet 16 round will resume on the 24th. Taking a look at what's going on in the women's bracket, there are now 24 teams left as we are halfway through the second round. There are 8 more games to be played today to determine which 16 teams will go, or the second 8 teams that are going to be going on to the Sweet 16. And the Sweet 16 for the women's bracket will start on Friday. But right now there's 24 teams competing for the title. Taking a look at what's going on in the NBA, we are at the point where teams are starting to seed themselves in playoff positions. So this is a very crucial part of the season for every single team involved. And it's the same thing for soccer as well. As we are getting towards the end of the soccer season, teams are starting to sort themselves out as teams are starting to hunt for titles. Starting with the men's college basketball bracket, taking a look at the only number 1 team that played yesterday was the last game of the day. The 1 seed Arizona Wildcats would face off against the 9 seed TCU Horned Frogs. This particular matchup would take place in San Diego. This coming after Arizona beat 16 seed Wright State by 17 and TCU beat 8 seed Seton Hall by 27. 1 seed Arizona would beat 9 seed TCU by 5. They won it 85-80 in overtime after they outscored TCU 10-5 in the overtime period. On the losing end of this matchup, the TCU Horned Frogs were led in scoring by their starting forward, Chuck O'Bannon Jr. Their senior out of Las Vegas, Nevada, finished with 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 steals in 39 minutes. He shot 7 for 18 from the field, 5 for 13 from 3, and 4 for 5 from the foul line. TCU starting center Eddie Lampkin, their sophomore out of Houston, Texas, would go on to finish with 20 points, 14 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 36 minutes. He shot 8 for 9 from the field. TCU starting guard Mike Miles, their sophomore out of Highlands, Texas, would go on to finish with 20 points, as he also had 6 turnovers in 37 minutes. He shot 5 for 20 from the field and a perfect 9 for 9 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the top seed Arizona Wildcats were led in scoring by the Pac-12 Player of the Year. Their starting guard out of Montreal will go on to finish with 30 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals in 41 minutes. He shot 8 for 19 from the field, 3 for 11 from 3, and 11 for 13 from the foul line. Arizona starting center Christian Koloko, their starting center out of Cameroon, will go on to finish with 28 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocks in 40 minutes. He would go on to shoot 12 for 13 from the field. With this win, the 1 seed Arizona Wildcats out of the Pac-12 are now 33-3 as they will advance to the Sweet 16 round of this tournament. Their next match will be against the 5 seed Houston Cougars in San Antonio, Texas on Thursday at about 10 o'clock. With this loss, the 9 seed TCU Horned Frogs out of the Big 12 will finish their 2021-22 season with a 21-13 record. Taking a look now at what else was going on within that South region, jumping to the 2 seed, the Villanova Wildcats would face off against the 7 seed Ohio State Buckeyes. Villanova would come into this matchup after they had beat 15 seed Delaware by 20. 7 seed Ohio State made it to this round after beating 10 seed Loyola Chicago by 13 points. And 2 seed Villanova would win this matchup 71-61 to advance to the Sweet 16 after they outscored Ohio State by 11 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 7 seed Ohio State Buckeyes were led in scoring by their starting guard Malachi Branham. Their freshman out of Columbus, Ohio, would finish with 23 points in 39 minutes. He shot 10 for 19 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the second seed Villanova Wildcats were led in scoring by their starting guard and the 2021-22 Big East Player of the Year, at least the back-to-back Player of the Year, Colin Gillespie. Their senior out of Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania, would finish with 20 points in 38 minutes. He shot 5 for 14 from the field and a perfect 8 for 8 from the foul line. With this win, the 2-seed Villanova Wildcats out of the Big East are now 28-7. They will advance to the Sweet 16, where they will face off against 11-seed Michigan. Their matchup will be on Thursday at about 7:30. And with this loss, the 7-seed Ohio State Buckeyes out of the Big Ten will finish their 2021-22 season with a 20-12 record. So those were two of the games out of the South region. Looking at the third game, taking a look at the 4-5 matchup that took place in Pittsburgh. The 4-seed Illinois Fighting Illini would face off against 5th-seed Houston. 4-seed Illinois made it into this matchup after beating 13-seed Chattanooga by 1. 5-seed Houston would end up beating 12-seed UAB by 14 to make it here. In this matchup, 5-seed Houston would beat 4-seed Illinois 68-53. Houston won this game by 15 after outscoring the Fighting Illini by 11 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 4th-seed Illinois Fighting Illini were led in scoring by their starting center, Kofi Cockburn. Their junior out of Kingston, Jamaica, would finish with 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals, all in 38 minutes. He shot 6 for 11 from the field and a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the 5th-seed Houston Cougars were led in scoring by their starting guard, Taze Moore. Their senior out of South Haven, Mississippi, would finish with 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 9 for 16 from the field and 3 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the 5th-seed Houston Cougars out of the American Athletic Conference are now 31-5. They will advance to the Sweet 16, where they will face off against the 1-seed Arizona Wildcats. This matchup will be on Thursday at 10 o'clock in San Antonio. And on the losing end of this matchup, the 4-seed Illinois Fighting Illini out of the Big Ten will finish their 2021-22 season with a 23-10 record. So now that the South is officially set, taking a look at the matchups that were going on, at least within the West region. The 2-seed in the West, my alma mater, the Duke Blue Devils, would face off against the 7-seed Michigan State Spartans. 2-seed Duke would make it here after beating 15-seed Cal State Fullerton by 17 in the first round. 17-seed Michigan State made it here after beating 10-seed Davidson by 1 in the first round. In this matchup that took place in Greenville, South Carolina, the 2-seed Duke Blue Devils would beat the 7-seed Michigan State Spartans 85-76. They won this game by 9 after outscoring Michigan State by 5 in the second half and then by 4 in the first. On the losing end of this matchup, the 7-seed Michigan State Spartans were led in scoring by their starting forward, Gabe Brown. In his final game of the season, the senior out of Ypsilanti, Michigan, would finish with 18 points in 36 minutes. He shot 7 for 11 from the field and 4 for 6 from 3. Michigan State starting forward, their senior out of Grand Rapids, Marcus Bingham Jr., will go on to finish with 16 points, 10 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks in 27 minutes. In his final game, he shot 5 for 12 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. On the winning end of this matchup, the 2nd-seed Duke Blue Devils were led in scoring by their starting forward out of Seattle, their freshman Paolo Banchero. Banchero would finish with 19 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 turnovers in 38 minutes. He shot 8 for 14 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and 1 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the 2-seed Duke Blue Devils out of the ACC are now 30-6 as they will advance to the Sweet 16. Their next matchup will be against the 3rd-seed Texas Tech Red Raiders. This game will be on Thursday at 9:39. And of course, with this loss, the 7-seed Michigan State Spartans out of the Big Ten will finish their 2021-22 season with a 23-13 record. With that said, taking a look at the 3-11 matchup within the West to see who would face off against Duke, the 3-seed Texas Tech Red Raiders would face off against the 11-seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish. 3-seed Texas Tech would make it to this round after beating Montana State by 35 in the first round. 11-seed Notre Dame would make it here after beating Rutgers by 2 in the first 4. or in the very first round. They would end up beating Alabama by 14 to make it here. In this matchup, the 3-seed Texas Tech Red Raiders would beat the 11-seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish 59-53. They won this game by 6 after outscoring the Fighting Irish by 5 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup in their final game of the season, the 11-seed Fighting Irish were led in scoring by their starting guard, Dane Goodwin. Their junior out of Arlington, Ohio, would go on to finish with 14 points and 8 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 5 for 8 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and he made one of his 2 free throws. On the winning end of this matchup, the 3-seed Texas Tech Red Raiders were led in scoring by their starting forward, Kevin O'Banner. Their senior from Houston, Texas, would go on to finish with 15 points and 15 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 6 for 13 from the field and 2 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the 3rd-seed Texas Tech Red Raiders out of the Big 12 are now 27-9. This coming after they had already won the Big 12 title this year. They will advance to the Sweet 16 round, where their next match will be against the 2-seed Duke Blue Devils. They will be playing on Thursday at 9:40. That will be a very big matchup that they're looking forward to. On the losing end of this matchup, the 11-seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish out of the ACC will finish their season with a 24-11 record. So that is what the West region is looking like after both of those games. Taking a look now at the Midwest region, where Kansas is the number 1 seed. Looking at the 2-10 matchup, the 2nd-seed Auburn Tigers would face off against the 10-seed Miami Hurricanes. This game took place in Greenville, South Carolina. 2-seed Auburn made it here after beating 5th-seed Jacksonville State by 19. 10-seed Miami made it to this round after beating 7-seed USC by 2. In this matchup, 10-seed Miami would upset 2-seed Auburn. They won by 18. They won at 79-61 after they outscored Auburn by 17 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 2nd-seed Auburn Tigers were led in scoring by their starting guard, K.D. Johnson. K.D. Johnson, their sophomore out of Atlanta, Georgia, would go on to finish with 12 points in 34 minutes. He shot 4 for 10 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Auburn's guard off the bench, Jalen Williams, their junior out of Nahunta, Georgia, will go on to finish with 12 points in 18 minutes. He will go on to shoot 5 for 8 from the field and 2 for 3 from 3. Back in Auburn's starting lineup, their freshman forward out of Atlanta, Jabari Smith, will go on to finish with 10 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks in what could have been his last game in an Auburn uniform. In 35 minutes, he shot 3 for 16 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the 10-seed Miami Hurricanes were led in scoring by their starting guard, Isaiah Wong. Their starting sophomore out of Piscataway, New Jersey, would go on to finish with 21 points and 6 rebounds in 36 minutes. He shot 8 for 18 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Miami starting guard Cameron McGusty, their senior out of Katy, Texas, would go on to finish with 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 10 for 18 from the field, and with this win, the 10-seed Miami Hurricanes out of the ACC are now 25-10. They will advance to the Sweet 16 round, where they will face off against 11-seed Iowa State. This matchup will be on Friday at 10 o'clock, as that will be when both of these that will be when the other Midwest matchup will be taking place. And of course, with this loss, the 2-seed Auburn Tigers out of the SEC, who had the best regular season record in the SEC, will finish their 2021-22 season with a 28-6 record. So that is currently what the Midwest is, or I guess looking at the team that they're going to be facing, and looking at the matchup opposite them at the 3-11 matchup within the Midwest region. The 3-seed Wisconsin Badgers would face off against the 11-seed Iowa State Cyclones. This particular matchup took place in Milwaukee, and first off, 3-seed Wisconsin would make it here after beating 14-seed Colgate by 7. 11-seed Iowa State made it here after beating 6-seed LSU by 5. And in this matchup, they would end up beating 3-seed Wisconsin by 5. They won it 54-49. They won it after outscoring Wisconsin by 4 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 3-seed Wisconsin Badgers were led in scoring by their starting guard, Johnny Davis, this year's 2021-22 Big Ten Player of the Year. Their sophomore out of La Crosse, Wisconsin, would finish with 17 points, 9 rebounds, and he would also go on to finish with 2 steals and 4 blocks in 38 minutes. In what could have been his final game as a Wisconsin Badger, Johnny Davis shot 4 for 16 from the field and 9 for 11 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the 11-seed Iowa State Cyclones were led in scoring by their starting guard, Gabe Kalshore. Their senior out of Edina, Minnesota, would go on to finish with 22 points and 2 steals. He would go on to shoot 10 for 19 from the field, and he shot 1 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the 11-seed Iowa State Cyclones out of the Big 12 will advance to the Sweet 16 round with a 22-12 record. They will face off against 10-seed Miami on Friday at 10 o'clock. This matchup will be in Chicago at the same time as Kansas is playing Providence. And with this loss, the 3-seed Wisconsin Badgers out of the Big 10 will finish their 21-22 season with a 25-8 record. And then last but not least, taking a look within that East region, the only game that took place there was a 3-6 matchup versus as the 3rd-seed Purdue Boilermakers would face off against the 6th-seed Texas Longhorns. This matchup took place in Milwaukee, and the winner of this would go on to face off against 15-ranked St. Peter's after beating Murray State. In this matchup, the 3rd-seed Purdue Boilermakers would beat 6th-seed Texas 81-71. They won by 10 points after outscoring the Longhorns by 6 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 6th-seed Longhorns were led in scoring by their starting guard, Marcus Carr. Their senior out of Toronto would go on to finish with 23 points and 7 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 8 for 18 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and 3 for 5 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the 3-seed Purdue Boilermakers were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Travion Williams. Their senior out of Chicago will go on to finish with 22 points and 7 rebounds in 24 minutes. He shot 10 for 13 from the field and 2 for 4 from the foul line. Purdue starting center Zach Edey, their sophomore out of Toronto, will go on to finish with 11 points and 10 rebounds in 15 minutes. He shot 2 for 6 from the field. With this win, the 3rd-seed Purdue Boilermakers out of the Big 10 are now 29-7 as they advance to the Sweet 16 round. They will face off against 15-seed St. Peter's on Friday at 7 o'clock. And with this loss, the 6th-seed Texas Longhorns out of the Big 12 will finish their 2021-22 season with a 22-12 record. That is what college basketball is looking like. As I said, the Sweet 16 round will pick up on Thursday, so of course we'll take it day by day until then. Moving on to the women's bracket, taking a look at the first 8 matchups of the second round. Starting in the Spokane region with the defending champ Stanford, the Stanford Cardinal would go on to face off and host the 8th-seed Kansas Jayhawks in their home stadium as they played in Stanford. In this matchup, of course, to make it here, 1-seed Stanford had to beat 16 Montana State by 41 points. 8-seed Kansas made it here after beating 9-seed Georgia Tech by 19 in the first half. In this matchup, the 1-seed Stanford Cardinal beat 8-seed Kansas 91-65. They would win this game by 26 after they outscored Kansas by 17 in the third quarter. They outscored Kansas by 24 for the entire second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 8-seed Kansas Jayhawks were led in scoring by their starting guard, Zakiya Franklin. Their junior out of Lakeland, Florida, will go on to finish with 13 points and 5 rebounds in 36 minutes. She shot 6 for 16 from the field and made her only free throw. On the winning end of this matchup, the top-seeded Stanford Cardinal were led in scoring by their starting guard, Lexi Hull. Their senior out of Spokane, Washington, would finish with 36 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 6 steals, as she would do all of this in 36 minutes. She shot 14 for 21 from the field, 6 for 11 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Stanford starting forward Cameron Brink, their sophomore out of Beaverton, Oregon, will go on to finish with 13 points and 12 rebounds, as well as 2 steals and 2 blocks in 30 minutes. She shot 5 for 11 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and she made both of her free throws. With this win, the top seed Stanford Cardinal out of the Pac-12 will advance to the Sweet 16 round with a 30-3 record. Their next matchup will be against 4-seed Maryland in Spokane, Washington on Friday. With this loss, the 8-seed Kansas Jayhawks out of the Big 12 will finish their 2021-22 season with a 21-10 record. Taking a look at the team that they're going to be facing, the Maryland Terrapins would host 12th seed Florida Gulf Coast. They would go on to beat the Eagles 89-65 in this matchup. But first, in order to make it here, 4 seed Maryland beat 13 seed Delaware by 31, and Florida Gulf Coast beat 5 seed Virginia Tech by 3. In this matchup, 4 seed Maryland would beat Florida Gulf Coast 89-69 after they outscored Florida Gulf Coast by 8 in the second quarter. They outscored them by 11 in the third, so they would outscore them by 19 in the middle 2 quarters. They would also go on to outscore the Terrapins by 16 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup in their final game of the season, the 12th seed Florida Gulf Coast Eagles were led in scoring by their starting guard, Kendall Spray. Their starting senior out of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, would go on to finish with 17 points and 8 rebounds in 25 minutes. She shot 5 for 9 from the field. All of her makes came from 3. She was 5 for 8 from 3. She would go on to make both of her free throws on the night. On the winning end of this matchup, the 4 seed Maryland Terrapins were led in scoring by their starting guard, Diamond Miller. Their junior out of Somerset, New Jersey, would go on to finish with 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 steals. She did all of this in 28 minutes as she shot 9 for 17 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Maryland starting forward, Angel Reese, their sophomore out of Baltimore, would go on to finish with 21 points and 9 rebounds in 22 minutes. She shot 5 for 6 from the field and then 11 for 14 from the foul line. Maryland starting guard, Ashley Owusu, their junior from Woodbridge, Virginia, would go on to finish with 20 points in 33 minutes. She shot 8 for 14 from the field, a perfect 2 for 2 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the 4 seed Maryland Terrapins out of the Big Ten will, of course, advance to the second round of this Spokane region in the March Madness tournament. Their next match will be against 1 seed Stanford in Spokane on Friday. And of course, with this loss, the 12 seed Florida Gulf Coast Eagles out of the ASUN Conference will finish their season with a 30-3 record. Taking a look at the third matchup to take place in the Spokane region today, the 2 seed Texas Longhorns would face off against the 7 seed Utah Utes. This matchup would take place in Austin, and in this matchup, the 2 seed Longhorns would beat the 7 seed Utes 78-56. They would go on to win this game by 22 after they outscored Utah by 12 in the third quarter and then by 8 in the third, by 20 in the middle 2 quarters. On the losing end of this matchup, the 7 seed Utah Utes were led in scoring by their starting guard, Kennedy McQueen. Their sophomore out of Hennifer, Utah, would go on to finish with 18 points and 2 steals in 28 minutes. She shot 6 for 10 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the 2nd seed Texas Longhorns were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Aaliyah Moore. Their freshman from Moore, Oklahoma, would go on to finish with 21 points and 5 rebounds in 21 minutes. She shot 9 for 10 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the 2nd seed Texas Longhorns out of the Big 12 will advance to the Sweet 16 round with a 28-6 record. They will advance as they will face off against the winner between LSU and Ohio State. They're going to be facing off today. Those are in this matchup, of course, you see the 3 teams that played in order to make it here. Taking a look now at what happened in the Greensboro region, where we had 3 more teams playing, or 3 more teams make it through to the Sweet 16. Starting off with the 1 seed in the region, the South Carolina Gamecocks will go on to face off against the 8 seed Miami Hurricanes. South Carolina would enter this matchup after beating 16 seed Howard by 58. 8 seed Miami made it here after they went on to beat 9 seed South Florida by 12 points. In this matchup, 1 seed South Carolina would beat 8 seed Miami 49-33. South Carolina won this game by 16 after they outscored Miami by 13 in the first half, by 10 in the second quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the 8 seed Miami Hurricanes were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Maeva Jaldi Tabdi. Their senior out of Paris, France, would go on to finish with 15 points and 3 blocks in 31 minutes. In her final game of the season, she shot 5 for 11 from 3, and those were all of the attempts she took. On the winning end of this matchup, the top seed South Carolina Gamecocks were led in scoring by their center off the bench, Camila Cardozo. Their sophomore out of Brazil Lowe will go on to finish with 11 points and 8 rebounds alongside 4 blocks in 22 minutes. She will go on to shoot 4 for 9 from the field and 3 for 5 from the foul line. South Carolina starting forward, Aaliyah Boston, their junior out of the Virgin Islands, will go on to finish with 10 points, 16 rebounds as well in 35 minutes. She shot 4 for 15 from the field. With this win, the top seed South Carolina Gamecocks are now 31-2, 16-0, undefeated at home as they advance to the Sweet 16 round. They are still looking to see who their opponent will be. They're going to face off against the winner between 4 seed Arizona and 5 seed UNC as they face off in Tucson today. Looking at the other 2 matchups in Greensboro, 2nd seed Iowa would face off against 10 seed Creighton, as this matchup would be in Iowa Stadium in Iowa City. 2nd seed Iowa would make it here after beating 15 seed Illinois State by 40 points. 10 seed Creighton made it here after beating 7 seed Colorado by 10. In this matchup, 10 seed Creighton would upset 2 seed Iowa 64-62. Creighton won this game by 2 after they outscored Iowa by 6 in the first quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the 2nd seed Iowa Hawkeyes were led in scoring by their starting forward, Monica Zinano. Their starting senior out of Minnesota would go on to finish with 27 points and 6 rebounds in 31 minutes. She shot 12 for 20 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Iowa's starting guard, Caitlin Clark, their sophomore out of West Des Moines, would go on to finish with 15 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, and 2 blocks in 40 minutes. She shot 4 for 19 from the field. She would shoot a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the 10 seed Creighton Blue Jays were led in scoring by their starting guard, Lauren Jensen. Their sophomore out of Lakeville, Minnesota, will go on to finish with 19 points and 7 rebounds in 36 minutes. She shot 8 for 15 from the field and 3 for 7 from 3. Creighton starting forward in this matchup, Emma Ronziek, their sophomore out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, would finish with 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 35 minutes. She shot 5 for 14 from the field and 2 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the 10 seed Creighton Blue Jays out of the Big East will advance to the Sweet 16 round of this tournament with a 22-9 record. They're set to face off against 3rd seed Iowa State. This matchup will be on Friday as the time has not been decided. With this loss, the 2nd seed Iowa Hawkeyes out of the Big Ten will see their 2021-22 season come to an end with a 24-8 record. Taking a look at the other Iowa team to face off in this Greensboro region, the 3 seed Iowa State Cyclones would face off against the 6 seed Georgia Lady Bulldogs. Iowa State would make it to this round after beating 14 seed UT Arlington by 7. And then Georgia will go on to make it into this round after they beat 11 seed Dayton by 16. In this particular matchup, Iowa State would end up beating Georgia 67-44. They would win this matchup by 23 after they outscored Georgia by 16 in the first quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the 6 seed Lady Bulldogs were led in scoring by their starting center, Jenna Stady. Their starting senior out of Cumming, Georgia, would finish with 16 points and 9 rebounds alongside 5 blocks in 28 minutes. She shot 8 for 17 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the 3 seed Iowa State Cyclones were led in scoring by their starting guard, Lexi Donarski. Their sophomore out of La Crosse, Wisconsin, will go on to finish with 20 points in 38 minutes. She shot 5 for 13 from the field. She would shoot 4 for 9 from 3 and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. Iowa State's starting guard, Ashley Jones, their senior out of Iowa City, will go on to finish with 12 points and 10 rebounds alongside 3 steals in 39 minutes. She shot 5 for 14 from the field on the day. With this win, the 3 seed Iowa State Cyclones out of the Big 12 will advance to the Sweet 16 of this bracket with a 28-6 record. They finished their season or at least in their last game at home, they will go out with a 16-2 record. Their next matchup will be against the 10 seed Creighton Blue Jays on Friday in Greensboro, North Carolina, as the winner of that matchup will face off between the winner of South Carolina and whoever wins between UNC and Arizona. Taking a look now at the 2 matches that took place in the Wichita region, starting off with the 1 seed within this particular bracket. The Louisville Cardinals would face off against the 9 seed Gonzaga Bulldogs. 1 seed Louisville made it here after beating 16 seed Albany by 32 points. 9 seed Gonzaga made it here after beating 8 seed Nebraska by 13 in the first round. In this matchup, top seed Louisville would beat 9 seed Gonzaga 68-59. They won this game by 9 points after outscoring Gonzaga by 8 in the third quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the 9 seed Gonzaga Bulldogs were led in scoring by their starting guard, Kaylee Truong. Their junior out of Houston, Texas, would go on to finish with 14 points and 6 turnovers in Gonzaga's final game of the season. In 35 minutes, she shot 5 for 11 from the field and 4 for 5 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the top seed Louisville Cardinals, who went undefeated at home, would be led in scoring by their starting guard, Haley Van Lith. Their starting sophomore out of Wenatchee, Washington, will go on to finish with 21 points and 6 rebounds. She did all of this in 37 minutes. She shot 8 for 17 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and she shot a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Louisville's starting forward, Emily Engstler, their senior out of New York City, will go on to finish with 12 points, 11 rebounds, 5 steals, and 2 blocks in 34 minutes. She shot 3 for 13 from the field and 6 for 7 from the foul line. With this win, the top seed Louisville Cardinals out of the ACC will go into the Sweet 16 of this round with a 27-4 record after they finish with a 17-0 record at home. They're waiting to see who will win between 4 seed Tennessee and 12 seed Belmont today to see who their opponent will be in Wichita in the Sweet 16 round. Taking a look at the other matchup that took place in Wichita, the 2nd seed Baylor would go on to face off against 10 seed South Dakota State. 2 seed Baylor made it here after beating 15 seed Hawaii by 40 points. 10 seed South Dakota made it here after beating 7 seed Ole Miss by 14 points. In this matchup, 10 seed South Dakota would beat 2 seed Baylor 61-47. They won this game by 14 after they outscored Baylor 16-4 by 12 in the first quarter. That was where they got their momentum, and it just really didn't relent after that. On the losing end of this matchup, the 2nd seed Baylor Bears were led in scoring in their final game by their starting center, Queen Egbo. Their senior out of Houston, Texas, would go on to finish with 13 points and 7 rebounds in 24 minutes. She shot 6 for 7 from the field and 1 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the 10 seed Coyotes out of South Dakota would be led in scoring by their starting center, Hannah Shervin. Their South Dakota senior out of Rogers, Minnesota, will go on to finish with 16 points and 4 steals as she fouled out in 34 minutes. She shot 6 for 14 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and 2 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the 10 seed South Dakota Coyotes out of the Summit League will advance to the Sweet 16 with a 29-5 record. They are slotted to face off against the winner between 3 seed Michigan and 11 seed Villanova, as that matchup will take place today. And also, in addition to that, all 4 of the Bridgeport games need to be played today. So with that, I'm going to transition into what's going on today, as there are now 24 teams left in the women's bracket competing for the 22 tournament, as half of the 16 teams have already clinched the Sweet 16. Taking a look at what's going on today, starting off on ESPN at 4 o'clock in the Reynolds Coliseum in Raleigh, North Carolina, the 1 seed North Carolina State Wolfpack are going to host the 9 seed Kansas State Wildcats in the second round of the Bridgeport region. 1 seed NC State was able to make it here after they beat 16 seed Longwood by 28 points. 9 seed Kansas State is here after they beat 8 seed Washington State by 10. This matchup will, of course, after this, they'll wait to see who wins between Oklahoma and Notre Dame in that matchup to see who they will play in the Sweet 16. Speaking of that game, that will be the next game at 6 o'clock on ESPN2 in the Lloyd Noble Center in Norman, Oklahoma, as the 4 seed Oklahoma Sooners host the 5 seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Oklahoma, the 4 seed, enters this matchup after beating 13 seed IUPUI by 6 points in the first round. Notre Dame ended up beating 12 seed UMass in the first round to make it here. Taking a look at the other matchup that's going to be taking place at 6 o'clock on ESPNU in the Wichita region, the 3 seed Michigan Wolverines are going to host the 11 seed Villanova Wildcats, as the winner of this matchup will face off against 10 seed South Dakota. 3 seed Michigan made it here after they beat 14 seed American by 35 points in the first round. 11 seed Villanova made it here after they beat 6 seed BYU in the first round. At 7 o'clock on ESPN in the Thompson Bowling Arena in the Wichita region, the 4-seed Tennessee Lady Volunteers are going to face off against the 12-seed Belmont Bruins in Tennessee for a chance to face off against Louisville in the Sweet 16. 4-seed Tennessee is here after they beat 13-seed Buffalo by 13 in the first round. 12-seed Belmont is here after they beat 5-seed Oregon by 3 in overtime in the first round. At 8 o'clock on ESPN2 in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center in Baton Rouge in the Spokane region, the 3-seed LSU Tigers are going to host the 6-seed Ohio State Buckeyes. The winner of this matchup will face off against 2-seed Texas in Spokane, Washington in the Sweet 16. 3rd-seed LSU is here after they beat 14-seed Jackson State by 6 in the first round. 6-seed Ohio State is here after they beat 11-seed Missouri State by 7 in the first round. At 8 o'clock on ESPNU in the Simon Schott Assembly Hall in Bloomington, Indiana, in the Bridgeport region, the 3-seed Indiana Hoosiers are going to host the 11-seed Princeton Tigers. 3-seed Indiana is here after they beat 14-seed Charlotte by 34 in the first game. 11-seed Princeton was here after they beat 6-seed Kentucky by 7 in the first round. The winner of this will face off against the winner between 2-seed Connecticut and 7-seed UCF. And this will be the next matchup at 9 o'clock on ESPN in the Bridgeport region, as the 2-seed Huskies will host the 7-seed Knights in Gamble Pavilion in Storrs, Connecticut. 2nd-seed UConn made it here after they beat 15-seed Mercer by 45 points. And then 7-seed UCF was able to make it here after they beat 10-seed Florida by 17 points in their game. So that's going to be that one. And then the last game, last but not least, at 10 o'clock on ESPN2 in the McHale Center in Tucson, Arizona, the 4-seed Arizona Wildcats are going to host the 5-seed North Carolina Tar Heels. Looking at how both teams got here, and this will be particularly in the Greensboro region. 4-seed Arizona was able to make it here after they beat 13-seed UNLV by 5 in the first round. 5-seed North Carolina is here after they beat 12-seed Stephen F. Austin by 13. And after all 8 of these matchups are done, we will be leading into the Sweet 16, as the Sweet 16 for the women's bracket will get started on Friday, March 25th. So until then, we're just going to take it day by day. Taking a look at what's going on in the NBA, starting off in Indianapolis, the Indiana Pacers hosted the Portland Trailblazers. The Pacers would end up beating the Trailblazers by 31. They won 129 to 98 after they outscored the Trailblazers by 13 in the first quarter, by 8 in the second, so they outscored them by 21 in the first half. They went on to outscore the Trailblazers additionally by 19 points in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Trailblazers were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Josh Hart. He finished with 26 points in 30 minutes. He shot 11 for 13 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and he made his only free throw attempt on the day. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Indiana Pacers were led in scoring by their starting small forward, O'Shea Brissett. He finished with 24 points and 9 rebounds in 25 minutes. He shot 8 for 10 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Indiana Pacers are now 25-47. That is currently the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 4 of their last 10. They sit 10.5 games behind the 10th place Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference, as the Pacers are currently holding about 10 games left in their season. They are one of 3 teams in the Eastern Conference that have been eliminated from playoff contention this season. With this loss, the Portland Trailblazers are now 26-44. That is currently the 4th worst record in the West. They've lost their last 4 games, and they've lost 9 of their last 10. They are currently sitting 3.5 games behind the 10th place Los Angeles Lakers and New Orleans Pelicans, as they are sitting outside of the picture looking in. That's how that matchup is looking. Taking a look at what happened in Houston, the Houston Rockets host the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies would end up beating the Rockets 122-98. They won this game by 24 after they outscored the Rockets by 12 in the first half, and then by 11 in the fourth, by 12 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Houston Rockets were led in scoring by their point guard off the bench out of Germany, Dennis Schroeder. He finished with 17 points in 27 minutes. He shot 6 for 13 14 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Memphis Grizzlies were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Desmond Bane. He finished with 24 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals in 32 minutes. He shot 8 for 13 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Dylan Brooks, finished with 20 points and 3 steals in 25 minutes. He shot 8 for 18 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Memphis Grizzlies are now 49-23. That is the second best record in the Western Conference, and that is currently the second best record in the NBA record-wise. They've won 7 of their last 10 games. They trailed the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 9 games as they sit a game and a half ahead of the third-place Golden State Warriors, just to get a sense of where they are. With this loss, the Houston Rockets are now 17-54. That is the worst record in the West. They've lost their last 5 games, and they've lost 8 of their last 10. Their 5-game losing streak is the second longest losing streak in the West behind the Thunder. They are sitting 13 games behind the New Orleans Pelicans and the Lakers, who are tied for the bottom of the play-in spot, as the Rockets have about 11 games left in their schedule. They are the only team in the West to have been eliminated from playoff contention so far. Taking a look now at what happened in Atlanta, the Atlanta Hawks hosted the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans would end up beating the Hawks in the battle of the 10 seeds. They won this game 117-112. Pelicans won this game by 5 after they outscored the Atlanta Hawks by 17 points in the first quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Atlanta Hawks were led in scoring by their starting power forward, Danilo Gallinari. He finished with 27 points and 5 rebounds in 41 minutes. He shot 11 for 21 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their elite starting point guard, Trae Young, finished with 21 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists, and 7 turnovers in 34 minutes. He shot 5 for 14 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 8 for 8 from the foul line. Atlanta's shooting guard off the bench, Bogdan Bogdanovic, finished with 21 points in 33 minutes. He shot 8 for 18 from the field and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. Atlanta starting center, Clint Capella, finished with 14 points and 10 rebounds in 31 minutes. He shot 7 for 10 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the New Orleans Pelicans were led in scoring by their starting center, Jonas Valanciunas. He finished with 26 points, 12 rebounds as well in 33 minutes. He shot 10 for 16 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, CJ McCollum, finished with 25 points and 8 assists in 39 minutes. He shot 9 for 26 from the field and 5 for 6 from the foul line. Their center off the bench, Willy Hernan Gomez, he finished with 17 points and 10 rebounds in 15 minutes. He shot 5 for 12 from the field and a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. The Pelicans starting center, Jackson Hayes, finished with 12 points and 12 rebounds in 38 minutes. He shot 5 for 12 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and he made his only free throw on the night. With this win, the New Orleans Pelicans are 30-41. They are tied with the Los Angeles Lakers for the 9th best record in the Western Conference, as they are both tied for that bottom spot in the play-in picture. The Pelicans have won their last 2 games, and they've won 5 of their last 10. In the play-in picture alongside the Lakers, they sit 5 games behind the 8th place Los Angeles Clippers. They sit 2.5 games ahead of the San Antonio Spurs, who are the first team on the outside looking in. With this loss, the Atlanta Hawks are 35-36. That is the 10th best record in the East. They've only lost 4 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, sitting at the bottom, they are sitting 1 game behind the 9th place Charlotte Hornets. They are sitting 4.5 games ahead of the Washington Wizards, who are the first team on the outside looking in, as the Hawks have 11 more games left in their schedule. Jumping out to Orlando, the Orlando Magic hosted the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Magic were able to beat the Thunder 90-85 as the Thunder's losing streak hit 9. The Magic would win this game by 5 after they outscored the Thunder by 7 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 2-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the Oklahoma City Thunder were led in scoring by their starting power forward, Darius Bazley. He finished with 18 points in 28 minutes. He shot 6 for 11 from the field. Their starting power forward, Isaiah Roby, finished with 11 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 blocks in 29 minutes. He shot 4 for 10 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Orlando Magic were led in scoring by their starting center out of Duke, my friend Wendell Carter Jr. He would go on to finish with 30 points, 16 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals as he had 5 turnovers in 31 minutes. He shot 12 for 15 from the field. He would shoot 2 for 3 from 3, and he would go on to shoot 4 for 7 from the foul line. And with this win, the Orlando Magic are now 19-53. That is the worst record in the Eastern Conference, and that is the second worst record in the NBA. They've won 4 of their last 10 games. At the moment, they trail the Atlanta Hawks by 16.5 games with about 10 games left in their schedule. The Orlando Magic are one of 3 teams in the East to have been eliminated from playoff contention this season. With this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now 20-51. That is the second worst record in the West, as they have now lost their last 9 games. Their 9-game losing streak is the longest active losing streak in the Western Conference and in the NBA. They've lost 9 of their last 10 because that's how a 9-game losing streak works. They are currently sitting 10 games behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans and Los Angeles Lakers, as the Thunder have 11 games left in their schedule. They are technically not eliminated from playoff contention yet. Taking a look at what happened in Sacramento, the Sacramento Kings hosted the NBA-leading Phoenix Suns. The Suns would end up beating the Kings 127-124 in overtime. They outscored the Kings 17-14 in the overtime period to pick up the win. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Sacramento Kings were led in scoring by their starting point guard, Davion Mitchell. Their rookie out of Baylor would go on to finish with 28 points and 9 assists, as well as 5 turnovers in 46 minutes. He shot 9 for 22 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. Sacramento starting small forward out of UNC, Harrison Barnes, would go on to finish with 21 points in 41 minutes. He shot 7 for 16 from the field and 6 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Domantas Sabonis out of Gonzaga, finished with 18 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals in 31 minutes. Sabonis would finish shooting 5 for 8 from the field. He made his only 3-pointer, and he shot 7 for 9 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Phoenix Suns were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard out of Kentucky, Devin Booker. He finished with 31 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists as he fouled out in 37 minutes. He shot 11 for 21 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Mikal Bridges out of Villanova, finished with 27 points in 50 minutes. He shot 9 for 18 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the foul line. Their shooting guard off the bench, Landry Shamet, finished with 21 points in 31 minutes. He shot 7 for 11 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. Phoenix's starting center, DeAndre Ayton, finished with 12 points and 10 rebounds in 27 minutes. He shot 5 for 6 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Phoenix Suns are now 58-14. That is the best record in the Western Conference and the best record in the NBA. They've now won their last 5 games, and they've won 8 of their last 10. They are currently sitting 9 games ahead of the second-place Memphis Grizzlies within their conference, as the Phoenix Suns right now are the only team in the Western Conference who has clinched a playoff spot. They are currently sitting with 12 games left in their schedule, as they have at least clinched a top 3 spot and definitely home court advantage in the West. With this loss, the Sacramento Kings are now 25-48. That is the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference. They've lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 8 of their last 10. They are sitting 6 games behind the New Orleans Pelicans and the Los Angeles Lakers outside of the playoff picture looking in, as the Kings are currently looking at 9 more games left in their schedule. Taking a look at what happened in Madison Square Garden, the New York Knicks hosted the Utah Jazz. The Jazz would end up beating the Knicks 108-93. They won this game by 15 after they outscored the Knicks by 12 in the second quarter and then by 8 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown New York Knicks were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard out of Duke, R.J. Barrett. R.J. Barrett finished with 24 points and 7 rebounds in 43 minutes. He shot 8 for 20 from the field. He will also go on to shoot 4 for 8 from 3 and 4 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Julius Randle, finished with 13 points and 11 rebounds in 35 minutes. He shot 6 for 21 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the Utah Jazz were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard out of Louisville, Donovan Mitchell. He finished with 36 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 11 for 21 from the field, 7 for 12 from 3, and a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. Their point guard off the bench, Jordan Clarkson, finished with 23 points and 6 rebounds in 39 minutes. He shot 10 for 18 from the field, and he would shoot 2 for 4 from the foul line. And of course, their elite starting center, Rudy Gobert, finished with 14 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 blocks in 33 minutes. He shot 2 for 3 from the field and 10 for 12 from the foul line. With this win, the Utah Jazz are now 45-26. That is the 4th best record in the Western Conference, as they've now won their last 3 games. They've won 6 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit 2 games behind the 3rd place Golden State Warriors. They sit 2 games ahead of the 5th place Dallas Mavericks. They trail the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 12.5 games in the conference. With this loss, the New York Knicks are now 30-41. That is the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they have officially clinched not having a winning record. They cannot have a winning record this year. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games. They are currently sitting 5 games behind the 5th place Atlanta Hawks with 11 games left in their schedule. Taking a look at what happened in the Mile High City. The Denver Nuggets hosted the Boston Celtics. The Celtics would beat the Nuggets 124-104. They won this game by 20 after outscoring the Nuggets by 25 in the first half. They outscored the Nuggets by 19 in the second quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Denver Nuggets were led in scoring by their elite starting center, Nikola Jokic. The reigning MVP finished with 23 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists in 33 minutes. He shot 8 for 23 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Boston Celtics were led in scoring by their elite starting small forward, Jason Tatum, and then their starting shooting guard, Jaylen Brown. Tatum finished with 30 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 turnovers in 33 minutes. He shot 11 for 17 from the field, 6 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Jaylen Brown finished with 30 points and 6 rebounds in 34 minutes. He shot 12 for 19 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the Boston Celtics would go on to finish with a 44-28 record. That is the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 3 games. They've won 8 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit even with the Sixers, who have 1 less win and 1 less loss than them. Alongside the Sixers, the Celtics are sitting half a game behind the second place defending champs Milwaukee Bucks. They are sitting 2 games ahead of the 5th place Chicago Bulls as well. They trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 3.5 games at the moment. Jumping out to Denver with this loss, they are now 42-30. That is the 6th best record in the West, as they are tied with the Timberwolves. They've now lost their last 2 games. They've lost 4 of their last 10. Alongside the Timberwolves, they are trailing the 5th place Dallas Mavericks by 1.5 games, and they also sit 6.5 games ahead of the 8th place Los Angeles Clippers, as the Nuggets have about 12 games left in their schedule. They're still trying to fight it out with the Timberwolves so that they don't have to fight for a play-in spot. Taking a look at what happened in Philadelphia, the 76ers hosted the Toronto Raptors from up north. The Raptors would beat the Sixers 93-88. They won this game by 5 after outscoring the Sixers by 10 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 5-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Philadelphia 76ers were led in scoring by their elite starting center, Joel Embiid. Embiid finished with 21 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 6 for 20 from the field and 9 for 11 from the foul line. Their elite starting shooting guard, James Harden, would go on to finish with 17 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 6 turnovers in 38 minutes. The former MVP would go on to shoot 5 for 12 from the field and 7 for 10 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Toronto Raptors were led in scoring by their starting power forward, Pascal Siakam. He went on to finish with 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in 36 minutes. He shot 10 for 20 from the field. He would go on to shoot 1 for 3 from 3, and he shot 5 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Precious Achiuwa, would finish with 21 points and 9 rebounds in 34 minutes. He shot 9 for 15 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the foul line. Their power forward off the bench, Chris Boucher, finished with 12 points and 14 rebounds in 39 minutes. He shot 4 for 12 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Toronto Raptors are now 40-31. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 6 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they are sitting a game behind the 6th place Cleveland Cavaliers, and they are sitting 3 games ahead of the 8th place Brooklyn Nets, as the Raptors are trying to at least get themselves a solid playoff spot rather than have to fall into a play-in spot. With this loss, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 43-27. That is the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference win percentage-wise. They've lost 4 of their last 10 games. Because they have 1 less win and 1 less loss than the Celtics, they are sitting even with the Celtics in the playoff picture. Right now, they trail the 2nd place defending champs Milwaukee Bucks by half a game. They sit 2 games ahead of the 5th place Chicago Bulls. Overall, the Sixers are trailing the 1st seed Miami Heat by 3.5 games. Jumping out to San Francisco, the Golden State Warriors hosted the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs would end up beating the Warriors by 2, as the Spurs would win this game 110-108. They outscored the Warriors by 3 in the 4th quarter to overcome their 1-point deficit. They also did outscore the Warriors by 14 points in the 1st quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Golden State Warriors were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard Jordan Poole. He finished with 28 points and 5 rebounds in 36 minutes. He shot 11 for 21 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their elite starting shooting guard Klay Thompson finished with 24 points and 3 rebounds in 38 minutes. He shot 9 for 22 from the field and 6 for 12 from 3. Their small forward off the bench, Otto Porter Jr., finished with 16 points and 16 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 6 for 13 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. Their all-star small forward, Andrew Wiggins, finished with 16 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 5 for 13 from the field and 6 for 9 from the foul line. And the Warriors all-star power forward out of Michigan State, Draymond Green, would finish with 4 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in 18 minutes. He shot 1 for 3 from the field, and he made both of his free throws. On the winning end of this matchup, the San Antonio Spurs were led in scoring by their shooting guard off the bench, Josh Richardson. He finished with 25 points in 27 minutes. He would go on to shoot 8 for 12 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. Their all-star starting point guard, DeJounte Murray, would finish with 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 24 from the field, and he made his only free throw on the day. With this win, the San Antonio Spurs are now 28-44. That is the 5th worst record in the Western Conference. They've won 4 of their last 10 games. They are now currently sitting 2.5 games behind the New Orleans Pelicans and the Los Angeles Lakers, who are tied for the bottom spot in the play-in picture. As the Spurs have 12 games left in their schedule, I think it's very possible for them to jump into a playoff spot. With this loss, the Golden State Warriors are now 47-24. That is now the 3rd best record in the Western Conference. They are now tied with the Miami Heat for the 3rd best record in the NBA. The Warriors have lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 6 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit a game and a half behind the 2nd place Memphis Grizzlies. They are currently sitting 2 games ahead of the 4th place Utah Jazz, as they trail the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 10.5 games in the conference. That is what the NBA is looking like as we are getting into today's games. And because today is, of course, Monday, the primetime games The primetime games today will be on NBA TV, the only primetime game, as the Brooklyn Nets, who hold the 8th best record in the East, are going to host the Utah Jazz, who hold the 4th best record in the West. Coming into this game, the Nets have won 5 of their last 10 games. They sit 3 games behind the 7th place Toronto Raptors at the moment. Coming into this matchup, the Utah Jazz have won their last 3 games. They've won 6 of their last 10. They are sitting 2 games behind the 3rd place Golden State Warriors, as that's who they're trying to catch next. Outside of the primetime game at 7 o'clock, the Charlotte Hornets are going to host the New Orleans Pelicans, who are tied with the Lakers for the 10th best record the 9th best record in the West. Speaking of the Lakers are going to go to Cleveland to face off against the Cavaliers as LeBron James will go back home. At 7 o'clock at the same time, the Detroit Pistons will host the Portland Trailblazers as the Pistons have already been eliminated from playoff contention. At 7:30, the Philadelphia 76ers are going to host the Miami Heat in the Wells Fargo Center. At 8 o'clock, the Chicago Bulls are going to host the Raptors in the United Center as is a matchup between the 5th and 7th best teams in the East. At 8, the Houston Rockets, who are currently holding the worst record in basketball, are going to host the Washington Wizards at 8 o'clock in the Toyota Center. At 8 o'clock at the same time, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to host the Boston Celtics in Paycom. If the Celtics win, the Thunder's losing streak will hit 10. And then at 8:30 at an American Airlines Center, the Dallas Mavericks are going to host the Minnesota Timberwolves, as both of these teams are currently fighting for solid playoff positioning in the West. That's what the NBA looks like following yesterday. Taking a look at what soccer is looking like looking overseas. Starting first in the English FA Cup, which is, of course, the domestic cup. First off, Crystal Palace would end up beating Everton 4-0 as they would get 2 goals in the first half from Gueye and Mateta, and Zaha and Hughes would score in the second half. Looking at the other 2 quarterfinal matchups, Manchester City would end up going to Southampton and beating Southampton 4-1. Their first goal will come from their elite English forward, Raheem Sterling. They would go into halftime tied at 1 after Laporte scored an own goal. Manchester City would open the second half with a penalty kick from their elite Belgian midfielder, Kevin De Bruyne, to take the 2-1 lead. Phil Foden from England would score in the 75th minute to put Man City up 3-1. And their last goal would come from Riyad Mahrez out of Algeria to give Man City their berth into the semi-final round of the FA Cup. And also in this round, Liverpool would end up beating Nottingham Forest 1-0 as their lone goal came from Diogo Jota, their Portuguese forward, in the 78th minute. Taking a look at what's going on in the actual English Premier League, Tottenham would end up beating West Ham 3-1. After West Ham had an own goal, and Ben Rama would score their lone goal of the game. Son Heung-min would actually score a brace for Tottenham. They scored right before West Ham's first goal, and he would score in the 88th minute to give Tottenham the win. Right now, Tottenham is currently sitting 5th in the Prem at the moment, as Son Heung-min is tied with Diogo Jota with 13 goals for the second most goals in the Prem following his brace yesterday. Taking a look at what happened in La Liga, yesterday was the biggest game of the season as Real Madrid would host Barcelona for El Clasico. Coming into this matchup, Real Madrid had the best record in Spain, or they still have it. Barcelona would end up beating Real Madrid 4-0. Their first goal will come from their Gabonese striker, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Second goal will come from their defender, Araujo, as they went into the half 2-0. Their third goal will come in the 47th minute from Ferran Torres, and then 4 minutes later in the 51st minute, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang will get his second goal of the game. With this win, Barcelona is now sitting 3rd in Spain as they sit 3 points behind second place Sevilla with 1 less game played, which gives them a chance to at least jump Sevilla and jump into second place. With this loss, Real Madrid is still sitting at the top of La Liga. They sit 9 points ahead of second place Sevilla. Speaking of Sevilla, Sevilla drew with Real Sociedad when a win could have done them a lot of good. So right now they sit 9 points behind first place Real Madrid and 3 points ahead of third place Barcelona and Atletico Madrid for the time being. Taking a look at what happened in France really quickly, it looks as though PSG fell short to Monaco 3-0, as Ben Yedder would pick up a brace for Monaco. With this loss, PSG is still sitting comfortably at the top of Ligue 1. They sit 12 points ahead of second place Marseille. Marseille was able to pick up a big win against Nice. They won 2-0, as Bakambu's 89th minute goal would be what they actually needed. They sit 12 points behind first place PSG, and they sit 1 point ahead of third place Rennes. Stade Rennais was able to beat Metz 6-1 in that matchup. In Italy, looking at the Serie A, Juventus, who entered this matchup with the 4th best record in Serie A, would host Salernitana and pull off a 2-0 win. They would get a goal from Paulo Dybala in the 5th minute, and then Dusan Vlahovic, their newest forward, in the 29th. With this win, Juventus is now holding the fourth best record in Italy. They have one less point than Inter, even though they played one more game than Inter. And they sit 8 points ahead of second place Atalanta. Looking at the Rome derby, AS Roma would beat Lazio 3-0 as they would get a brace from Tammy Abraham. Roma is sitting sixth, right behind. They're sitting just about even with Atalanta, even though Roma's played one more game than Atalanta. So that is how Italy's looking. Jumping to Germany, looking at the second best team in the nation, Borussia Dortmund would end up drawing with Cologne 1-1, as their lone goal came from Marius Wolf. With this draw, they are now sitting 6 points behind first place Bayern. Third place Leverkusen was able to beat Wolfsburg 2-0 as both of their goals came from Paulinho at the end of the game. Leverkusen now sits 9 points behind second place Dortmund and in prime Champions League position. And RB Leipzig would end up drawing with Frankfurt, but they still hold the fourth best record in the Bundesliga, tied with FC Freiburg. But that is what soccer is looking like as we navigate into today. Taking a look at what's going on today, not much big matchups, but of course, as we navigate through sports one day at a time, it's going to be really, really fun to do so, just seeing how the season stacks up. With that said, I want to thank everyone for listening to all 65 minutes of this piece. I really do hope all is well. I want to thank the NCAA, the NBA, and FIFA websites, and ESPN websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I need. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. I also apologize for all the names that I butchered. I do plan on getting them right. A lot of these names I am seeing for the first time. And like I said, once everything's done today, I will come back tomorrow on Tuesday, March 22nd for another episode of The Elite. So until then, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well, and I do have an Elite profile after this. So thanks for listening, and I'll catch you with more after this. Thanks for listening to my piece. I'm James Sims. Today is March 21st, 2022 in this quarantine. I wish everyone well, and like I said, peace out. I'll catch you with another episode after this.